I started with The Alchemist as well, where you do a top 100, where you got to learn 100 cocktails. I will now admit on camera that I did cheat. Yes, I did. I got about 80 of them, and then the last 20 was gone. So I had the specs on my phone. But then years after that, I went and worked in great cocktail bars, but then I forgot specs again of classic cocktails. Even now, I panic if you ask me what a daiquiri is, because I'm like, ugh, and know what's in it. Couldn't tell you the measurements exactly, because so many bars that I've worked at had different ones.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
You go, oh yeah, I've done this. And you go, someone else, now we don't do it like this.
Yeah, you're like, cool. And then difference guide, great little thing, especially on your phone when you can pop out the back and look at that. But yeah, specs were always a difficult barrier that I faced and still face to this day. I'm more of a people bartender. Yeah, that's just some of the barriers that I've faced, but also used in my own advantage.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to jump on what you said about like talking to guests, I'm sure again anyone who's been had a bar, just talking to people again, but we all again like you say about hyperfixation is just sort of like, you know, we've all got one. For me it's gin, like myself, Jack of all things juniper. But like if I'm talking to a guest and by God if I talk to guests, it's I would just spend about an hour or so talking to someone about the most nichest thing possible about some slight relation. It's like, oh actually Christ, I'm 17. There's about 8 people going for drinks that are just focused on that, or like I used to have gin tours. You know, there was like, oh, these should last on the website, or it was like, no, they take 20 minutes or half an hour, whatever. It's like, oh Christ, we're 3 hours, you missed your dinner booking, and my bar needs setting up. Where's the time gone, sort of thing. So, like you say, on talking to people or guests or about specs, that type of fixation is great. But you can also, you need to kind of, where's the cut-off point? Where do we learn our self-control and limiting of being like, I can't talk forever about this one thing to this one person as much as I'd like to. So like, I get where you're coming from in that sense.
I've written a load of things down and I'm like, I'm not sure how relevant all this is.
Any other barriers?
Barriers.
Defects.
Yeah, no.
So I was thinking about this. I think that because I was diagnosed so early, and also like we also moved a lot like as a child, so I had like, you know, a fair amount of really fun trauma from that. But like I think I did a lot of very well, what I thought was probably very artful masking, but was almost certainly not. Like also my background is as an actress. I'm still an actress. Like you know, pretending that everything is fine and I feel fine is a thing that, you know, is a vital skill as an actor. It's also a fairly vital skill as a woman. And you know, so I think I've done a fair amount of like covering up when I was like having a tricky time. I would say that frankly, working in the bar industry, the most barriers that I've had like were as a woman. I mean, I worked like under Tony C, and he trained up a 16-year-old bar back before me. Like, you know, that's the kind of shit that I was dealing with more than anything. But I think that something that I found, it's a thing that can be really like the hyper-focus thing. It can be really like hard. But like I'm genuinely so curious about like every single person ever. I want to know like everyone's story, like what was your childhood like, what's your favorite color, where do you want to drink, where do you like, which makes me like really like I want to know how to make everyone's favorite martini. And like in an ideal world, I would know how to make every single one of your favorite martinis, and it would make me deeply happy inside. But like I have really had to work at like not having the like spiral into like, oh my god, I want to know every single thing about you specifically, and therefore distract me from all of the other things that I have to do and the other people that I have to take care of, you know, because like we've met people, some people are more interesting than other people, and then those people you want to spend the time with and find out, you know, about their childhood and their favorite color and the way that they like, if they like a chicken Kiev, like, but you know, chicken Kiev, like
Kiev.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a weird, I don't know.
Keith. Keith? Yeah,
It's
cool.
it's kind
No,
of
that's
stuff.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's it.
But you know, having to like work yourself and going like, no, you have this guest and this guest and this guest, and like I must bring myself back to taking care of them, so that also I can like do my job and then not have the thing where I go like think, you know, hours and hours later, like, oh my God, I messed up. I didn't take care of that guy in the blue jumper. He had a terrible time. He's never gonna like me ever, and now I must think about it every day for the next 4.5 weeks and discuss it in therapy, in spite of the fact that I met him for 2 minutes.
And he doesn't remember your name.
And he has no idea at all. And he was like, my martini was fine. Was it the perfect one? No, and I will never forgive myself.
No, absolutely.
But you know,
Yeah.
I think that thing of like finding ways back to the bits that you personally can, and the thing of like at the end of the night or like throughout the course of service being like, oh my God, this person is mad at me and now I must think about it, and it will. I'm like, you really can wrap yourself up into a real tizzy going like, this is this really big thing, and often to the other person, they can be the kind of person that's like, it's just not that deep, and I'm like, oh my God, but everything is that deep to me.
On that, I remember in one of my first therapy sessions when I was talking about certain scenarios, that my therapist told me that imagination in your brain is a powerful thing, and that if you make up a scenario in your brain, you tell your brain it happened, your brain thinks it happened. So then so if you go, my manager told me this drink was wrong because he hates me. 20 minutes on that, your brain goes, he hates you. So you just stay on it. That's not a neurodivergent, not neurotypical, we don't like those. Neurodivergent thing, that is just a general brain thing, that your imagination makes up these scenarios and it is reality to you. So that's then something to deal with. One last thing I had, a little boundary, I feel like, even if you're not neurodivergent in this room, how many people have had that thing from your family where they're like, when are you going to get a real job? Anyone? Hands up? Hands up, everyone? You guys are so weird over there. You guys are just living the best life. Okay, cool. So I had that family expectation of my sister. I remember my sister telling me when I was becoming I wanted to be a photographer originally. That turned out terrible. And then became a bartender. I remember her phoning me up telling me, so why don't you go to college just to be like an electrician or something like that? Something that I could possibly use around the house when I'm older. Considering I lived in Birmingham and she lived in Kent. No idea how I was meant to help her there, but okay. But that family expectation put into your brain of like, oh, maybe I do need a better job and stuff like that, but this is a job that I really love. And I get to do what I want and I enjoy it and I get to meet guests and I get to make things and be creative. That kind of barrier of fighting against it is very difficult.
Yeah.
But just know that you're doing this job for a reason. You love it, you hate it, whatever. You're doing it. So just don't let anyone else put those images into your brain that you are meant to be doing something else. So only you can make that decision.
Oh, man. So, on the flip side of that, let's obviously now look at some more positive stuff. Again, I found that since kind of embracing myself a lot more, I've actually really found stuff that I can excel in and focus on. And some of it's down to, again, like, let's talk about spec tests, for example. So obviously, we go back to the Alchemist spec test, where here's 100 cocktails, write them out, you have half an hour. And it's one of those ones of where I actually realised when I decided to embrace who I was a bit more, I was like, actually my rating is really poor because of X, Y, Z. Can I do a verbal spec test? And when I opened up St. Josephine in Cardiff, the trainers we had were actually kind of early, you work really hard, we can see you're struggling, we're trying to get the written stuff. Let's try to do a verbal one. And I never thought about it before until the trainers suggested it, because they had also enjoyed doing verbal tests. And like, honestly, it's maybe 2 hours out of a day. You can do it before service. Just get them to go behind the bar, physically pick up every single bottle and go, show me how you make this cocktail right now. And suddenly my brain was like, oh yeah, I know exactly how all this is made. I know exactly how this is made, how we're doing it, what it needs to look like, why we're doing it. And I can see the image in front of me and so on, and I can taste it, I understood the methods, the reasoning behind it and so on. And by having that barrier taken away, advocating for myself going, no, I need to do it this way. And when I went to Kalu, I remember they had said to me that they never really thought about verbal spec tests before until I didn't. And after that, Blakey Simone was like, oh, this is actually quite good. We should just offer this now in the future. And it's one of those ones of where it's little things like that. You need to have multiple formats of information for your teams. You know, speak to your teams and make sure that if you're going to give them something, this is important, actually take the time to check in to see whether or not they can understand it. Because when we are supported, we have our needs met, we can absolutely excel and do wonderful things. And again, I'm really amazed by a lot of what AD does on TV, like radio presenting, stuff like that. I was listening to the podcast him and Ben did on the Hidden Trinity, talking about when he was younger, I got told I can never do that. So he essentially made his own way and overcame barriers and now get this to do really wonderful creative stuff. I'd love to hear how you folks have kind of used your creativity, innovation, or just stuff that you found easier because of your university.
I've got stuff for this one. Go on. So, I've been very fortunate that most of my career in hospitality has been in the space of teaching people. Like when I was working in coffee in Melbourne, I gravitated towards training roles and took that with how I originally started about Grind. I was a coffee trainer and then I moved into running that cocktails department, teaching people about coffee and cocktails. And that's not because I'm like selfless, like my particular flavour of childhood trauma is I became a teacher because you get an audience. Right? Yeah. Like, let's be real about it. That is very much it. Like it gives me the attention deficit piece that I need of people focusing on me, whilst also adding something in a way that you hope is net positive. But having always been very aware of different minds, different learning styles, different needs, something that I've always held very closely is this idea of the dropped curve effect. Anyone know what I mean when I say that? So the idea of the drop curve effect is we drop curbs for people with different abilities. For people with mobility issues, for parents pushing prams, but they benefit all of society. Having a drop curve means that you can push a delivery up there, it means you can put a bike up there, it means if you need to get an emergency service vehicle, you can do that. The drop curve that you specifically created for one thing has a net positive benefit for all of society. And almost always when you tweak how you're integrating with your team because of what they need as neurodivergent people, it makes it better for everybody. We often tend to value very clear communication because things can very easily be misconstrued. Anyone that's ever worked in a corporate setting, what's the number one thing that's always not good?
Acronyms.
I mean, yeah. I was going for communication.
And communication.
Yeah.
All the best
I'd
regards.
say acronyms definitely a part of communication. And so by making clear communication and by putting in steps that you can clearly communicate with your team, that makes it better. One of the things that I really struggle with is I can totally change the plan and throw the old plan out, as long as I got to make the decision that we're changing the plan.
Yeah.
If the plan gets changed for me, break them.
Yeah.
But also, most people operate like that.
Yeah.
If you put systems in place where you clearly communicate short and long-term expectations, you create a situation. So yeah, drop curve effect is something that I want to say. I also think that something that's been really positive, and long before I realised that I was doing it because of my ADHD and because of the sprinkling of autism and all the stuff, is like optimum trajectory. You kind of touched on it. It's like you can learn to do anything, but there are certain things that you, based on who you are, will be able to be better at and will enjoy more. Find that shit and throw all of your energy into it. Because whilst anyone can learn to do anything, there's some stuff that you will be able to learn to do really good. And this industry is amazing at giving you the space to do that.
On that of the scientific wording that I don't know how to pronounce right now, have you anyone seen the TikTok trends or Instagram trends that is like, I didn't get the maths and science, autism, I got XYZ?
Yeah.
I relate to that so much because I didn't get the maths and science autism, I didn't get any of that good autism. I got the I'm obsessed with Pokemon and bartending autism. Yeah. I can play a game. My secret talent and my party trick is you show me a picture of any Pokemon, I can name them. I can give you their typing, and I can probably give you the generation. I've got it down to a T. Bartending, I fell in love to it. I fell into it, obsessed with it for 4 or 5 years, fell out of it, and then I came back into it when I moved to London. And then now I've then moved on to be a brand ambassador, which now I'm obsessed with carbonation. Full stop. So yeah, that like another positive that I got from it though was like you were saying, becoming a teacher because you have a stage. Cocktail comps. Cocktail comps were my stage. It's a little backstory. As a gay man, I've always wanted to be a drag queen. I've done it once or twice. Session with Drag Race, like everyone else was at the time in 2009 when I was a wee baby, because I was only 4 years old then. Don't do the math. I didn't get that math autism. But I used, because I worked in the industry, I couldn't do that because of it. I worked on Fridays and Saturdays, which is when you usually go to the clubs to be in drag. So I couldn't do that. So I turned my drag stage into cocktail comps, or the bar itself. So my stage was the bar with guests. So that's a positive. I got to perform every night to the 9 to 10 people that were sat in front of me, and I had the best time in the world.
Did they enjoy it?
Yeah, I had so many. Maybe the wig was a bit awkward sometimes, but no. But then in cocktail comps, because obviously the guests you have at the bar, they may become regulars. They may just be there one time, and you never see them again. Right. Cocktail comps is where I got to show off and be that bartender in front of other bartenders, and really make it into a production. So my brain, when I do cocktail comps, I think of every detail. One of my favourite comps I ever did was it was an Old Forester comp where I pretended to be a snake oil salesman, and I had a cane that was in the Prohibition. I took off the cane, and out popped like projectile popped out like a little vial of whiskey, because we weren't allowed to have whiskey because it was Prohibition. And I thought about every detail, and I was in a suit, and it was at some terrible little pub in Birmingham. Like, it was the weirdest comp in the world, but I won it, and I was so proud of myself because I thought of every cocktail comp as a production, and I needed everything to be correct. So I used my ADHD, autism, the spectrum, or whatever, to really focus on those little details and make those comps correct, which then pushed me to then work at the Edgbaston Boutique Hotel, which then pushed me to work at Couch, which then pushed me to work in London, which now got me the job. So like just those little things, details, is what I use as a positivity. Another positivity that I now find is that this is a really good one recently in the last couple of years at Seed Library and now at Schweppes. They understand that I have ADHD and I have autism and dyslexia. They don't just let that go, oh, okay, he's cool, like the spelling's off or something. They challenge me on it. They don't make me feel bad for it, but they challenge me on it. And then which is making me better, realising my spelling mistakes and my communication and being clearer. As you were saying about acronyms, POC has confused the hell out of me for months, because in the world of diversity, POC means a person of colour. In the admin world, no. What's the word?
Corporate.
Thank you. The corporate world, POC means point of contact. My brain, when they're like, oh yeah, your POC is Samantha or whatever, I'm like, what's her race or colour got to do with anything? I don't understand. But yeah, now I'm starting to learn that. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, it's really interesting, obviously, looking at language barriers. Again, I don't do the labels at work because my writing's awful. And we joke about it, but ultimately it's one of those moments of where, like, it's one where we've essentially worked a system around that now. Of, cool, I make everything, and we'll go peeking with the labels. And we'll do it. Because ultimately, I know it's not. I will do it sometimes, but I know it's pointless. Because if I can change my writing for like 20 years, I'm not going to start changing it now. And if I find systems around that, just work a lot easier.
So I kind of had an unusual thing in terms of like the ways that I came.
Also to interrupt, we have to go from the bar. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, darling. Thank you, Spade. See you later. I ain't clapping.
Yeah,
read that. You.
Okay, so you were saying about
Wait,
Diana?
so I have like, I kind of came to bartending in kind of an unusual way,
Yep.
and I was like a sommelier and da-da-da. So I never got the like proper spec training. I desperately kept trying at places, and it literally never fucking happened. But the thing that I realized was that I was like very good with flavor. So if somebody like says that they want a daiquiri, I'm like, I know what's in that. But because I'm really fucking good with flavor, even if I don't have any idea what the specs are, I can make it taste like a daiquiri because I know roughly what it should taste like. And I can kind of do that with most drinks. So when I was working as a bartender, honestly, I was terrible with specs, but I was very lucky in that I was like, I'm a super taster, I'm very good with flavor. So I was like, this is roughly right, I think. And then I would like desperately learn the specs of the specific bar I worked in, which was not the Alchemist, thank fucking Christ. Because I could not have learned 100.
Oh,
wouldn't have done
I
it.
never did, mate.
Did
you not listen to the bit where I said I cheated?
I know, but I was
Oh, don't worry, that calls me card on that.
But yeah, so like for me, the flavor thing was something where I was like, oh, I'm quite good at that, and then I just really tried to like lean into that, and then kind of, you know, ended up running a bar. The focusing on people thing was a thing that I was very, very helpful. But the job that I do now, I mean, I'm a brand ambassador for a brand that I've been with for 6 years,
Yeah.
and I have literally turned a hyper-focus into a job. I've turned down jobs with every one of the big houses to continue working for a tiny brand because I just genuinely, I love it in a way where a 6-year hyper-focus is a long hyper-focus. For me, it's, you know, it's real long, but like the ability to still care about it and talk about it in that way is kind of, I think, like I have, you know, had things that, like, would I have more money if I worked for a big portfolio? Yes. But choosing something that I really do genuinely love and kind of can actually, with joy, talk to people about, for me is kind of worth the trouble.
Yeah.
And like, I think that finding the things that you specifically care about, and like that's what hospitality is so incredible about. There's so many different things. Like you can genuinely find the thing that you love the most. Like one of my old bosses loves agave. She's opened an agave kind of bar / school in Mexico because that is what she wanted to do. Like you can do that. Like you can find the thing that you can have your weird hyper focus that will like sustain you for longer, and you can find the things in your specific jobs that are the things that you love that will make just doing that on a daily basis like something that's full of joy and
Absolutely.
like makes having to deal with all the other bits better.
Just going back to that, finding your strengths and actually
Yeah.
just play to that, really push it and so on. Again, just instead of having to be good at everything, just
Yeah.
be amazing at a few things.
Yes, and if you're really good at those specific things, then people will kind of let you get away with the things that you're not. So like, you know, if you can't write labels, people will not make you write labels. Like, you know, and if they know that you're gonna fall down a rabbit hole, if somebody's like really interesting, they'll like help you get back and make martinis for the other people. Like, you know, there's ways of doing it. But one thing I was also gonna say, this, which is like kind of related, but like most companies have more resources for things like therapy and mental health than you think they do. They will not offer them up because nobody wants their insurance premiums to go up. This is a thing as an American I really know a lot about, but most bars and like foods companies will have those things in place. And if you need help asking for it, like ask for help. Do not like lean into the struggle. Try not to struggle. Like life is hard enough, it'll make you struggle. But like ask for help when you can. And like the thing is, if they don't have those resources available, they'll simply say no. They won't let you do it. But like asking for the things that make your life just a bit better and a bit like more pleasing, it's worth doing. But it's like you do have to do the uncomfortable thing of asking for help, and asking for help sucks and it's hard, and like nobody actually likes to put themselves out there and go, you know what, I'm really struggling. I'm struggling with depression or anxiety, or like I'm currently like whatever. Like if you ask for help, they will give it to you, and it can be really silly, like little things. Like my company's all based in the US, so it's all Zoom based all the time. Like I don't have to turn my camera on for my Zoom calls because my boss knows that I feel like I have to be on all the time as a brand ambassador. So when I'm at home having a call with him, I don't want to have to like have done my fucking face
Yeah.
because I'm too vain and I will do it. He's
Yeah.
very handsome. But like, you know, there's things like that that are silly things, but like being able to just have our weekly calls
But again,
and not
it's-
have to do it,
it's support
it's
to you.
support. Yeah,
Yeah,
it means a
absolutely.
difference to me. But like ask for help and ask for help for big things like maybe getting a therapist or whatnot, because the worst they can do is say no, and then you're in the same position you already were in, and then you can figure out how to do it yourself, and that sucks. But like if they can help and they do, then hooray, you're just slightly further along.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yourself, you know?
Yeah, I think as kind of everyone's really touched on, like, this industry is amazing at being a stage to present yourself. Whether you do that for a bar, like there's many of us who like either working as bartenders or like kind of just like really build brands around ourselves, like to be involved in the hospitality industry or even competitions. You know, it's no surprise to anyone that I comp. It's yeah, that stage, that kind of, you know, almost turning work, if we have to call it, into 10 hours of performing. It's an amazing ability to go, oh, this is me, or building a bar around like one type of focus. Again, it's incredibly incredible. For example, you've got many bars that are focused on whether it's like age experience, specific experience, or like you know, yeah, a specific cocktail example. Like you've got bars that are adaptable to you being, you know, you can find your place in that type of focus. So again, like you three in this room, or like me as an ex like VA, it's amazing to be able to go, oh, work for me. I used to work gym all the time. It was amazing because work didn't feel like work. It just felt like, oh, like you said, I'm going to go and teach people about something that I like with the net positive effect. And that's like hospitality being a huge positive in that aspect.
So, kind of wrapping back around this way, if you had to give a piece of advice, is this anything with like, whether it's advocating for yourself or something that you wish you knew early on, what would be like a line of advice you would give, just to wrap up on?
I think just stay true to like yourself. Like what I loved discovering about the industry was that it was beyond accepting, and I wish that I didn't. Not like again like masking, whatever you want to call it. I wish I hadn't adapted myself for the role or the position I wanted in the industry. I wish I just came in as like myself. That took a while to kind of be like actually, you know, things creeped in, and it was like, okay, I can do this, which means let's see how far I can get away with it. I wish I came in just as, you know, myself and been like, right, this is what I can offer. How can we adapt that to fit in? And again, this industry is just so flexible and adapting to that. So yeah, just come in as yourself, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it does just go along from that, but like find really genuinely, like take the time, find the things that you genuinely love and care about, because it will make your life better and easier. And you know, there are so many incredible places that you can really like look, like I've worked in places that I've looked up to, and then when I've been there, I don't fit into them because they're not my place, and it can be really hard to kind of go, oh, but I'm working in this amazing place, of course it must be right. But it's like, take the time to find the place that is like right for you, whether that's a bar or a company or whatnot, and then like use what you love to your advantage, because it will make dealing with all of the other things easier. And also ask for help. Like be in a place where you can ask for help, and because we all need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like and being comfortable with it is. You don't always have to be comfortable with it. Just ask for help anyway.
I would say everyone's saying like find that thing that is your obsession and go with it. And like you're saying, your friend over the tequila bar in Mexico, great, but don't beat yourself up that you haven't found that thing yet. That thing could come next week, could come the week after. As like if you keep trying the things that you enjoy, like I don't like tequila, I've learned that. Fine, great. That's not my area of expertise. Next thing, like find that thing, but don't beat yourself up about the things that you have tried and realize it's not your specialty or obsession or whatever. That's it.
Struggling to find a way to say what's been said when you guys put it so well. I think that beyond neurodivergency and being neurotypical, like no one will ever be able to be as authentically you as you are. And you don't necessarily need to know what that is, but putting a little bit more time into trying to figure it out and being okay to ask for help and being okay to make mistakes, but holding that idea of knowing yourself is something that I think I wish I'd discovered earlier.
No, absolutely. I think very much the biggest thing I've learned is advocating for yourself can feel hard, and sometimes you can feel alone with it. Like, I mean, I'm a non-binary, transsexual, autistic bartender. I've had discrimination for being gay, for being neurodivergent, and the biggest thing that I've now found is, I have fought back, and I've written letters to HR, to managers, sent to meetings, they suck, but when I started actually advocating for myself and standing up and actually looking at mental health, well-being, and just generally DI within the industry, the biggest thing I found is once you actually start putting your foot down to things and going, no, you need to respect me for who I am, and you will end up finding your community, people who actually care about you. You'll build a much better kind of friendship and love from that, and it's so much more powerful because even workplaces, there's some bars out there you go, oh, this is the best bar in the world, I have to work here, and then you end up working there, you're like, oh, this isn't actually, I don't like this. And it's interesting looking now on it of the best things can come at the most unexpected ways, and you never know. And again, it was Tanya saying, asking for help. When I asked for help, actually when I finally got the right help, it really pushed me forward, but also brought me back up. And I spent 3 years going from having what I felt was nothing, completely my life felt ruined, to building up where I am now. And it's so important that we as a community build inclusive spaces, listen to your teams, sit down afterwards at the shift and have a little debrief, knowing how was everyone's shift. Again, if something annoys you, talk about it. And sometimes it's not supposed to be personal. When I did this talk up in Aberdeen, one of the panelists I had, Leon Wilkes, turned around and basically said that they like to call everyone chef during service because we're not focusing on our name, we're not making it emotional, we're just going, chef, can we do this? Because also, they worked at a small bar, and you can hear when someone's really made a mistake, they don't go, Stephen, you've done that wrong, or chef, can you get this drink, please? And it's stuff like that. I also wanted to say, there was so much amazing organisations out there. At Drinks United, we've just built a website that has a list of resources available to it, with policies, templates, stuff like that. I also want to take a moment to thank Vicky for being an amazing individual. Essentially, Eagle Meshes was founded by Dino, and Vicky very much now runs a lot of it. And I think, when I met Vicky, I was at quite a low point in my life, and our friendships really helped me be where I am today with these wonderful people. And again, you got the drinks trust as well. And again, and that thing of asking for help, your company might have policies. A lot of managers will not think about it until I've had the experience of until something happens, and then they go, oh, I need help. And then they realise, oh, we actually do have policies, and so on. And yeah, again, when you start asking for help, the people who don't treat you favourably is a clear sign going, I don't actually want to be with these people. I don't care how good you think they are in the industry, how much you think they can push you forward. Ultimately, be with people who actually care about you. It's going to make a massive difference. But I just want to say a massive thank you to Shreps Advocacy for sponsoring this. Massive thank you to Hendrix. Again, big thank you to all the help from Matt and Luke as well for all the work they've put behind this. Again, big thank you to Chris and the CTC team. I really appreciate getting to be here in this venue, and then we will We're going to take a little break just now, a little mingle, and we're going to get some food, then we'll come back and we'll start to take over around 6, where we'll be serving some delicious Hendrix and Schweppes cocktails with £2 from every cocktail sold with go-to equal measures, where again they'll be supporting individuals like myself to provide mentorship, qualifications, and it's great. Please have a little mingle, please have a hang out, and yeah, absolutely.
I'm so need to be.